Hi there. Thanks so much for joining us today. Good morning. I know some of you see you frequently. We actually, we might have a small enough group. Well, it's kind of growing. We might be able to do some quick introductions for folks that are able to do that. But first, I guess let me introduce myself because I don't know everyone. I'm Ruchi Watson, and so I'm the Managing Director of the Goff Strategic Leadership Center, which obviously is seeking to start the Goff Strategic Leadership Student Organization. And I'm joined by my colleague, Erin. Do you want to introduce yourself, Erin?
Yeah, of course. My name's Erin, and I'm the administrative assistant in the center. So I help with coordinating, scheduling, and stuff like that. So I have reached out to most of you via email. I'm usually the one behind all of the emails.
Yeah, Erin's awesome. So thank you so much for being here today. Ethan, looks like you might be here. Yeah, you should come.
Yeah, I'm right outside SBEV.
Oh, okay. So we are today talking a little bit about the Goff Strategic Leadership Club or student organization that we would like to start. And one thing that I would love is if in the chat, if you could share anything that you're hoping to learn today. When you were coming in, is there anything in particular that you wanted to get out of today? Because I do have some slides and information to share, but that way if there's something that I should particularly emphasize or that I don't have prepared, great, thanks Brad, then we can do that. Okay, cool. And throughout, feel free, stop me. It is pretty casual. Honestly, just want to make sure that we're answering your questions. It is being recorded. Don't be alarmed, just because not everyone could actually make it today with classes and stuff. So that way that we can share it out. Since it is a little smaller of a group, I might ask if we could do some introductions, and you can kind of just share who you are, major, if you're comfortable, like why you came today. So I'll just go around with how you are on my screen. So Brad, you were first on my screen, if you could start.
All right, so I know most of you at least. So I'm Brad Wilcox. I'm a finance major, advanced financial analysis emphasis with a minor in management and some other stuff, but we don't need to talk about that. Kind of what I'm looking for is just learn more about the club and kind of the expectations of student leaders and the members of the club as well.
Thanks, Brad. Isaac.
Hey, I'm Isaac. No relation to Brad, but we know each other for sure. Yeah, anyway, I'm a junior at the business school. I'm a finance major. I'm actually pre-med as well, but I'd like to own my own practice and know how to efficiently run a practice. So that's kind of what I'm looking to get out of this, is just knowing business strategy, knowing how to, work in a changing and, interesting environment.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Isaac. Daniel.
Hey, I'm Daniel Pabst. I'm a junior in business management, and I have a minor in Chinese, but I might do a dual major depending on how the timing shakes out. And then for this class, I guess I wanted to learn about portfolio management, how to manage your assets, make smart investments, and collaborate, that type of thing.
Darren.
Hi, my name's Darren. I'm a junior studying Cuomo with a minor in finance, or the AFA. So I'm in Goff Trailblazers right now, and it's been a really fun experience learning a lot of principles of leadership. And I wanted to see how I can apply that to a club, and how we can kind of like put that into real world cases similar to the style that we're doing in that class right now.
Thanks, Darren. Ethan.
Well, hi, my name is Ethan Black, and I'm a junior studying finance with a minor in management. And similar to Darren, I'm currently involved in the Goff Trailblazers, and it's just made a really strong impression on me so far. Like in these 2 months, I've learned more than I have in a lot of other experiences. So it'd just be really cool to kind of like expand that to almost like every student, so they can kind of get some opportunity with Goff. And that's what really interested me about the club.
Thanks, Ethan. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more. Now I've got people that don't have videos on, which is totally fine. Jared. able to.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm kind of on the go right now, but I just wanted to tune in to kind of get some more information about the club and really, I don't know how things are going to be run. I'm a major in entrepreneurship, doing a minor in management. I'm a junior. I am a new transfer student as well, so I'm just trying to find ways to help hone those skills of company ownership and professional leadership, and this seemed attractive to me, so I hope it could be good.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. I will just point out that one thing we're trying to get some more clarity on is the electives for the entrepreneurship major. And I believe I've been told that both the Goff Trailblazers and the Goff Scholars class count as electives towards your entrepreneurship major. So that would be another opportunity for you just to keep in mind, and feel free to ping me and I can follow up, because I know the department chair was trying to figure out all the details on that one.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I would like to get some more information about that course in particular, because it seemed like it'd be interesting, but there's also many other interesting entrepreneurship electives to choose from, so I haven't yet decided, but
yeah, absolutely. And feel free to email Erin or whatever email address she was emailing you from, and we'll make sure that you get connected in. Next we have Josh.
Hi, I'm Josh. I am a third year studying Spanish. I'm hoping to double major, but I am not sure what my other major will be. I'm a part of the Goff Trailblazers as well, and so I'm just looking to see what the club is going to be like and learn more.
Thanks, Josh. And then we have someone that's on a phone, a 303.
That's me. My name's Nick. I'm double majoring in operations, supply chain, and finance. I'm in the Goff Scholars program this year, and I just really want to learn a lot more about strategy.
Thanks, Nick. Good to see you again, talk to you again from that first week of your class. Okay, great. Thank you so much for doing that. It's helpful to kind of see who all is here. What I'm going to do is share my screen, because I want to kind of provide a little context for folks that maybe aren't business majors, how centers and institutes work a little bit. Also, I think having the context will help you see what the expectations for leaders are. But feel free to stop me throughout, or chat something. Erin will be watching. My laptop actually died this morning, so I'm on sort of a loner right now. So hopefully I can make everything work here. So hopefully you can see that. And again, just stop me as anything kind of comes up. This isn't super formal, but I did want to just kind of start with, there's a lot of terminology on this campus and a lot of different things to engage in, and just sort of share that there are centers, institutes, initiatives all across campus. And the way that I think about them is that, you have your core education. And so in business schools, you're going to learn accounting and finance and management and kind of the usual stuff. But the centers and institutes, particularly at the David Eccles School of Business, are where we can kind of play and go deeper. And so give students the opportunity to engage in things that they may not get in the classroom, or to take it to the next level. And so that's really, kind of what we're doing. And so I just put a couple here so you can get a sense of some of the different things on campus that you might be familiar with. And so at Goff, obviously, we're focused on strategic leadership, which is a term that may not be particularly familiar to a lot of people. So I wanted to dive into that a little bit and actually let you know that, frankly, it's something that in the academic literature is still being defined. And that's what I think is also kind of cool about it, is that we're still learning more. And so those of you in the class, you've probably seen something like this, but happy to make this interactive. I'm curious, when people even think of leadership, what do you think about, or what would you expect? Anyone's brave enough to kind of chime in, please do.
Yeah, before I took this class, I kind of saw leadership as like, you think of a company that, like, upper level, director level, things like that, and being able to relay and lead a team to achieve like certain goals. But from this class, it's kind of changed my perspective in that, we've talked about how everybody has the ability to display strategic leadership, and it kind of falls at all levels of like anyone can do it at any point in their career or school.
Thanks, Darren. Yeah, that's a good, that's something that we see actually a lot in the literature as well, is that people don't really get leadership training until they're sort of mid-career, senior careers. And when it comes to strategic leadership in particular, all the research is on top management teams, so like C-level folks. And so one differentiator, and I'll actually just hop to this slide, is that typically when people talk about leadership, it's like an individual, how are you being an individual? Are you a charismatic leader? Are you a servant leader? What's your leadership type? Or they talk about how you work with others to do a thing, teams, that kind of thing. And that's all great. That's like the leadership ability piece here, right? But there's this, what are you leading? What are you doing as an individual? What are you pulling together a team to do is equally as important, and not to do by someone else and then all of a sudden they pass along to you, here, go do this thing, and then you lead it. But it's equally as important that you understand how you're creating value and where you're creating value, and that you're proactively seeking that out. And so that's where we really see is if you can do both of those things, that's what strategic leadership is, and that's where you will maximize your impact. And it's something that you continue to learn throughout your career. And so honestly, I know Erin has done a lot of benchmarking of other leadership centers, and they really are focusing here. So one point of differentiation is that we are bringing in the strategy piece, and the fact that we have really strong strategy faculty, some of the best in the world, frankly, that are affiliated with the center. We're going to do this better than anyone else, in my opinion. The other thing, and Darren mentioned this, that again is differentiating about us in the center, is that there's no need to wait. We believe anybody can be a strategic leader, and that's really critically important. And so those in the class are seeing how those skills, it's hard. It's something that we're not necessarily used to doing. We're used to kind of solving problems that we're given. But by doing both of these things, you're really able to maximize your impact. Brad, were you going to jump in?
No, I was just making it so I don't have to click on the mute button.
So that's kind of how we think about strategic leadership and what we're really offering. And we can get into all the nitty gritty, and I'm happy to answer some questions. But I also wanted to just share about what we do, because I know folks are probably fairly familiar with Lassonde as a big institute on this campus. And Lassonde is really focused on the student engagement piece pretty heavily, and certainly community, because they're working with other small businesses, they're starting businesses. There are challenges across the state that are, student focused, high school focused. And I think that's something that's pretty cool about the Goff Center, is that we're actually pretty evenly desiring to do all three of these things. We have an academic director, Todd Zenger, that's a fairly senior strategy and an entrepreneurship and strategy faculty member. Jay Barney, Bill Hesterly, Heidi Herrick, Benita, a lot of people on the faculty side. And that's a little bit unique to some of our centers. And so we do have courses that, as you've heard, that are directly affiliated with the center. And then because everything we do is experiential, we engage with the community. And the piece that we really need to build up, I think Ethan really hit on it, is the student engagement part. And I'll hit on that a little harder in a second. So how we do it, at the bottom here, I put in some of our guiding principles. And this, visual is just something that we tout in terms of our marketing, is that everything we do is experiential. We believe, just based on what we know about pedagogy and learning and just being able to be a strategic leader, that you got to do it, and you got to do it in a real environment. Simulations and that are great, and there's a space for that. Cases are great. There's a space for that. But what we really try to promote are these real engagements. But we also want people to opt in. This isn't a push where we're forcing everybody to do it. That's not our interest. What we hope to do, and what we hope these leaders will help us do, is to make this something that students really understand is valuable for them, so that they want. Like, our biggest problem that we hope to have is that people are knocking down our doors, and we have to figure out how to provide programming and opportunities for everybody. And then the last thing is just lifelong. Too many things, you kind of come in, you do your class, you check the box, and you get your grade and you move on and never think about it again. But we believe so much in the things that we're talking about here that we want to create a community that's lifelong. We want alums to come back. Ethan, Darren, Josh, Brad, we've had more recent alums come and speak to the class, and it's so valuable. And having a couple of years of experience, they've been out long enough to say, oh my gosh, this was so incredible. or even the ones that are really senior are like, wow, I never would have had these conversations in my undergraduate, like there are things that I'm still working on or struggling with. So we know that the lifelong piece is really important, and we want to build that in. I've shared a lot. Let me pause for a little second. Any questions that have come up for folks? Okay. So the center lives within the David Eccles School of Business, which is great. The mission of the business school starts with literally these 4 words: we build strategic leaders. So we sure as heck better have a strong connection in with the business school, and we're doing a number of things. But let me end you on the little dirty secret is that right now we've got 2 classes. So I think Nick mentioned being in Scholars and several others in Trailblazers. So right now we're serving about 40 to 80 students, undergraduates. And, we could be doing a little bit better because the entire campus has a lot more than 40 to 80 students. Frankly, the business school has a few thousand undergraduate students. So we've got some work to do. And there's some reasons why those classes are small. They probably need to be to have the experience that we have, but classes aren't the only thing, which is exactly why we need your help and we want to start this student organization. There are 25,000 students on this campus, undergraduate students on this campus, and we're thinking big. So like Ethan said, how do we engage these folks? We really believe these things are valuable for students across all majors. Those in my class, you've seen, especially the non-business majors, they're struggling a little bit, but that's exactly because they haven't seen this stuff before. We've done some surveys amongst business students, and it's something like 97% of business students identify as a leader already. It's just part of our DNA, the students that we bring in, the language that's used in business. People generally feel like leaders. I'm not saying that they're all have all the skills and everything that they would like to have, but at least they identify as a leader. And I'm curious, my guess would be, and Erin always reminds me that folks across campus don't necessarily get all of that. It's not necessarily part of their DNA. So how do we help them? Erin, do you want to hop in at all? Anything you would add?
Ruchi is right. I do remind her often because I did not go through the business school for my undergrad, and now that I work at the Strategic Leadership Center, I realize how valuable so much of what we teach in the Goff classes and in the center could be so invaluable to the rest of people on campus, because regardless of your major, everyone will need leadership skills in whatever field you're going into. Granted, business is great and business runs everything, but even if you're an engineering student or a psychology student, at some point you're going to be a manager and you're going to have to be a leader. And if you've never been given opportunities to learn and grow, then it makes it a lot harder. So I think that's why it's so important that we get these tools out to as many people on campus as possible.
Thanks, Erin. And Isaac, as you said, pre-med, wanting to start your own practice. Exactly. We actually get a lot of business scholar students that are pre-med that are interested in just making sure that they know, what are the things that I need to know? What's the language that I need to know? So I think, how do we do that better and invite others in and give them opportunities? So that's the crux of why we want to start the student org. So hopefully you see the vision and see where we're headed. And so that's why we're looking for leaders. We need people who can help us start this. So strategic leaders who can help us understand where are the real problems, help us identify the right ones. How do we pull in different resources? How do we build awareness across campus? What are the right programming and programming options and offerings? Because, Erin and I have ideas, but we're not in your shoes, and we're not in the shoes of all the undergraduates on this campus. And so we really need folks that are gonna, be proactive, go seek out what the right partners are, what students want, and help us build, because that's where we are. So some folks with some entrepreneurial grit would be great. And so our plan really was just to do this, let people know what we're about, what we're trying to do, and that if folks are still interested after hearing what they're hearing, that it's not at this point very structured, we're open. You'll have a lot of support, certainly. Erin and I and the new manager are here for you and for it, but we strongly feel like this should be student driven. And so we're looking for folks that can help us do that. And if you are interested, then Erin will probably send out a sort of a follow-up note here to let her know. And our plan is just to kind of sit down and chat with the folks that are interested, get your ideas, understand what your interests are, and build the right mix of the leadership team that can start this thing. And so the way that it works a little bit with ASUU is that there are certain times in the semester that you can actually start student orgs. You can't start them all the time. And so one of the next times is at like a November timeframe. So we're looking to get students, you need at least 3 leaders to start an organization, start a charter or constitution, and kind of do a little bit of the logisticy upfront stuff, which we can obviously help with. But then just start to figure out what are the programmings and options. You know, what should we be doing? Is it a speaker, a workshop, a podcast? You know, looking for those creative ideas. So Brad, I know that you had the question about, you know, what are you really looking for? That's what we're looking for. So it's a little like we've mentioned in class, like it's not very clear. It's not like here's exactly the plan, go do it. It's more open and ambiguous than that, which hopefully is exciting to some folks. And then Ethan, I think you asked about timeline. So that's kind of what we're thinking, is getting it going in that November phase that ASUU has, and we can certainly share the more detailed dates, or, you know, the website that has that. So that's kind of it. I don't think I don't have anything else. You know, here's our info. So any questions, obviously the email address is here, and that will go to Erin and we can answer those. Obviously would appreciate you following us on the socials, because we're pretty nascent, really. We're trying to get our word out. So that's one way, you know, Brad probably never wants to think about this again, but, you know, our social media, we need some performance marketing, Brad. So we're looking for some help here as well. So with that, I'll stop talking and let you ask some questions. I know we had a couple people join late, so feel free to ask again, or we'll send out this recording. Does this sound interesting, exciting? Was it what you thought it would be? It's okay if it's not exciting for you. It doesn't need to be for everyone. You're all very quiet. Are you contemplating?
A little bit, and also just like you covered a lot that I was curious about, so I just need to figure something out.
I guess it's not, I mean, it's still really early. We haven't set up even, I mean, the club hasn't even started yet. So just I guess my questions were more about the day-to-day of what it is to be in the Goff Club. And I guess that still has to be established, essentially, right?
It does. You know, I'll just like touch on this just for those of you not in the class. Like, this will give you a little more in the sense of the kinds of things that we generally talk about. It's still a little bit principle based, right? So a little theoretical and academic, but you'll see, you know, some of the things that we're talking about. And the reason why there's little boxes on the middle one is I've been working with our faculty, and sort of, as I mentioned, this is a kind of a living entity because we're doing research all the time and learning from things. And then let me flip one more slide. You know, I was balancing, I don't want to say, here's what we're going to do in the club, because we really truly believe the students should drive what that looks like. But I also then was like, somebody's going to ask, well, what do you think it would be? So I just kind of threw out some ideas. When I say consulting projects, I mean going and working with organizations and helping them with their big strategic problems. So getting going back to that experiential piece. And the reason why I put low risk is because in the class, you know, these folks are working with, you know, real companies that have real bottom lines and things that they're trying to accomplish. And not that we wouldn't be working with real companies, but I'm thinking maybe small mom and pops that like anything is sort of helpful. And so it's a real low risk in the sense that they would take value in anything we can give them, or nonprofits, things like that, where, you know, they just don't have the opportunities to have student support, where, you know, for a club, it's probably the right level of support. You know, certainly speakers, I think that's pretty ubiquitous across student orgs, but as hopefully the Trailblazers folks know, we've got an extensive network. So the way I like to think about it is, students, we don't want to give you speakers just because we think they're a cool speaker. Tell us who you are interested in, and we'll go out and try to find people like that. So Isaac, if it's a physician that has their own practice and speaking to, how they did that in the business side, Daniel and others, I know you had some very specific things that you were looking at. We can pull those folks in. I think that the goal is to be very real and productive and helpful and not theoretical. What's actually helpful for the students. Podcast I mentioned, Lasan does this thing called Hours with Experts. So I'm just stealing that phrase because I think it makes a lot of sense. But we've thought about, we have a center space. I'm here. Obviously people can't be here now, but when people can be here, we thought if students find it valuable, what if we bring someone in and say, hey, there's going to be a strategy expert that's here for an hour every month. If you have any questions, things that you're working on, that's the time. It's like their office hours. Come and ask your questions, whether it's about your business, a class, whatever. Slams, and Aaron can maybe speak to this more, but after the some strategic leadership courses that the MBAs took, they wanted to keep talking about these topics. It wasn't enough to just kind of touch on them in the class. So we had started doing just getting on Zoom and having some conversations and talking about what people's experiences and challenges were. We could do something like that. We could do some workshops on, and I just threw out a couple of things that, are particularly relevant to the principals, but again, could be, more specific to conjoint or whatever people are interested in. So does that help? I mean, the idea is that it's generally wide open, but here's some ideas of things. And because there's a center backing the student org, I'll just be perfectly honest, there are resources backing the student org, which lots of clubs don't necessarily always have, and they're just trying to get money from ASUU, which is also good. But in this case, you'll have Aaron and I and a manager and a space. Ethan.
Yeah, I just wanted to first off say thank you, Ruchi and Aaron, for putting together this webinar. I think all of us can really say it was really informative for just kind of what you guys have in mind. And I just had a question in regards to, from now into the meantime of starting the club, would you guys just recommend, kind of like your slide showed, just having really creative ideas to present to you guys for how we want to run the organization? Or what's just some best practices between now and when the club starts?
Yeah, good question, Ethan. I think, our plan is to kind of send this out to everyone, give them a little minute so people who weren't here can digest the info, and then just ask people if you are still interested. We wanted to set up time with you. So yeah, between the time now and the time we set up time, be thinking about those creative ideas. If you were to take this, if it was your personal challenge and you were the CEO of, and someone said to you, go engage 25,000 students on the University of Utah campus. I mean, I know that's big, but hey, why not? What would you do? How would you think about it? Because I think what will help us is to see what kinds of people are interested, what their ideas are, and as we talked about in class, finding the right mix of people, aligning the right resources so that we have people with a diverse set of backgrounds and that we think will really help us.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Ethan. Brad.
Yeah, so this could be very premature, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on the structure of the leadership team that you're wanting to put together.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it is a little bit tough until we see who's interested, but if I had to guess, I would say maybe 3 people to start, and then working with them to figure out, okay, do we need others as we expand and figure out what we're doing? And then, so certainly it doesn't need to be set in stone. It's also living and breathing. So those first leaders may find that we need a broader leadership team, and then we find others. So the other thing that's been on my mind is potentially having sort of a Goff student council. So any students that maybe are interested but may not be quite ready to say, I'm ready to take on a leadership position and say that I have the bandwidth to do things, could still be on sort of an advisory committee, and they're interested in, and say, hey, be on the council, so that as the leaders are trying to do things, they have someone to bounce ideas off of. Just a couple of ideas I have. Yeah, Ethan.
Yeah, and with kind of regards to just being a part of like the business school, with Bonita being involved in the business scholar program, will we be able to access, just kind of have more of a, how do I say this, just more of an invitation, I guess, towards business scholars with this club, or do we want to be like very independent? Because I just had in mind that would be a very good resource for us to have, since Bonita is one of the directors, and that's how I got into the program, is she was just an advocate for it. So maybe an outlet like that would be beneficial towards our towards this club.
Absolutely. I mean, we consider Bonita an affiliate of the center, and I talk to her all the time. So that's why I mentioned to Nick, who was in her class, like I taught her class when she was unable. So yes, I mean, we'll have lots of partners, and that's also, I have to say personally, how I work is to have, you know, you can't, no one's an island. You need other people. And so absolutely, we've also had conversations about more formal integrations with business scholars, Ethan. So we're just still figuring it out. There's but lots of discussion about it.
Sweet, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. Brad. And if folks need to drop off, I know we're a little over time, so feel free if you do need to.
So this should be my last question, but what are you looking for as time commitment for the student leaders and for the council? And I'm assuming the members is more on a just come if you want basis?
Yes. So high, medium, low, I guess, in that order of what you said. Gosh, you know, again, it's like hard because I'm like, I want to say students, you help us understand what the extent of the things are. But members for sure, showing up, being ambassadors to the extent that they can, you know, as part of being strategic leaders is helping us identify problems. I think council, I would guess, is sort of more of a maybe once a semester kind of a situation where we're bringing people in, being a little bit more like a retreat consultative, maybe if we do Slack or something like that, being available for real-time questions and to push things out to others. And the leaders, I think up front, it's going to be a little more, you know, I've got probably, you know, realistically not more than a few hours a week, because what is there to do at the beginning, but put together a plan. But I think that would be important for the leaders to know, feel comfortable with us, you know their resources, understand what the ASUU process is. And then, but I think that, you know, as with anything, it's about understanding where the value creation lies, what the vision is, and then putting the right people into place. It's not like those few people have to do everything. We just need a few people to make some decisions and be responsible, and so now I'm going to use all the class lingo, take some personal ownership over it. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing. And Aaron, please jump in. But to me, the trouble lies sometimes, speak honestly, I've started a number of organizations and been a part of a number of organizations where, you know, students are interested in being in leaders, and then things come up and they have priorities and they don't choose this thing. If you're going to be a leader of the Goff Club, because it's new, we need it to be a thing where you are able to commit and you can work with integrity and take some ownership over things. Yeah, Brad.
Yeah, I just wanted to, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I wasn't sure if Brad raised his hand or not. So go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, so I am in a leadership position at the Benyon Center right now. And a lot of the people, I guess we're calling specialists in the communications team. They're essentially still volunteers, but they have projects that are assigned to them. But of course, we kind of push school first at all times, right? And I'm just curious, when it comes to these low risk consulting projects, you know, if we're working with businesses in real time, what kind of expectations we have for student participants, because if it is it's not a class, it's not something you're paying for, something like that, how do we plan to draw that commitment line?
Yeah, it's a good question, Darren. Well, you know, we'll kind of have to see what people are able to commit to, but I think that where I've seen this work is when they're a few weeks long. You know, we can start with things like hackathons, like Hack a House, and connecting into competitions and things like that. I'm even trying to bring some realness to the competitions instead of being a case, you know, make it a real organization. So I think that's part of what we'll need to figure out is who's willing. I also could see a world where scholars and trailblazers, or former scholars and trailblazers, are the team leads for those projects. So they've been through an experience like that before. and then they can kind of come back and help to make sure that there's some accountability and ownership, and, you know, raise the right flag so that people aren't coming in with zero experience and trying to do it. So that's where I see kind of the lifelong aspect, is that there are multiple opportunities for people to continue to grow. So if you have taken a class, this could be your next step. And then, you know, to put it crassly, then you can put it on your resume. You led a team, right? Like you led an entire team of your peers to do X thing. We also can make it things like on-campus things. There's so much where people need help. That would be valuable experience for a student. You know, what if the Benyon Center needed something? You know, could one of the teams take that on? And then that's pretty low risk as well, right? Because they understand students and they know how things kind of ebb and flow.
Okay, yeah, no, I was just kind of, yeah, because there has been like a problem. I think engagement as a whole, especially with like virtual, like we've kind of seen that decrease a lot, so.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it is hard. I think though too, like you can probably tell in your groups and classes and things, like there are folks that like they're going to get it done no matter what, and there are folks that, you know, it's just they're overextended. This is a difficult time for many people, and this just may not be the right time for those folks. Let me stop sharing so I can actually see you all. There's something else I was going to say. Now I lost it. I don't know, but Brad, let's get back to you.
I didn't have another question. It might have just been left over from the last question, so we're good.
Perfect. Ethan.
Yeah, so just one quick question. Will we have the ability, because I feel like with starting a new club, there's going to be a lot of emphasis on just more getting exposure and getting our name out there. Will we have the ability to work with the finance club or management club and kind of do maybe joint meetings with them to really get our name out there for the business school?
Yes. I've already talked to Ken about both Business Econ Society and Management Consulting Club. You know, I know Liz pretty well. I haven't talked to Robert. I don't think that'll be an issue. I think a lot of people are interested in joint things. Oh, what I was going to say is we also have really amazing student employees that work for the center, and they do design work, social media, our Salesforce, our CRM system, and newsletter. So we also have students that can help with that kind of stuff. Hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, Aaron, because ASU has some interesting rules, but we're just going to say, yes, you have all those people. So I think that you just have a stronger support system than I think a lot of traditional organizations do, because we're a center and we're a center in the business school. And I'm just going to tout my own self. You're a center in the business school with a person that knows a lot of people on this campus. So when we need to pull in people, you know, fairly certain that we'll be able to do that. Jared.
I was just going to say that, you know, as a new transfer student, there's I don't know, I think I have a different perspective on all these kinds of clubs and organizations than someone who started here. But something I will say is that I don't know the answer to this, but to begin with this club, I think we should begin by answering the question of, you know, the David Eckel School of Business is trying to develop strategic leaders, and what are they effectively already doing to do that? Because I don't really know. I mean, and really this club could serve as an organization, as a function, to fill those gaps the business school is not effectively addressing in that mission statement. And so I think that's a question that all of us could answer individually in our own ways, but maybe not something that the business school could answer itself, perhaps, because otherwise, if they could, they'd be doing it.
Yeah, Jared, so spot on. I think I would say you'd be surprised about the things that we know we should be doing that we may not actually be doing. So I'm just gonna be honest about that. At the same time that we are very passionate about the student organization, helping us to be very student-led and driving things, we are so open to student feedback on any and all parts of what we're offering from the center. We are also, so exactly what you're saying, I've been working a lot with various folks and business scholars with the new B Corps and people in the entrepreneurship and strategy department, in our various majors, all folks, to understand how we can integrate into the existing curriculum. Not everything needs to be, taught in Trailblazers and Scholars. And in fact, it would be beneficial if some of it was taught earlier. But again, that only helps us for Eccles School students, and Eccles School students that go through the core and the other classes. So we've connected with the Student Leadership Center across campus in ways that we can connect in the things that they're doing, the involvement of ambassadors across campus, and there is a leadership minor across campus. So, trying to understand where we fit in with that, and or creating, one thing that we're talking about is creating a strategic leadership certificate, so that for folks across campus, they can get some credits for things that they're already doing. And it's not just all business school classes, because just, reality is the differential and the tuition in the business school and just the time and the credits. It's not always that simple. Even though there are scholarships for Goff affiliated courses, we understand that not everyone can do that. So we're trying to make every offering as valuable as possible, but also give these non-course offerings through the student org so that someone doesn't have to commit to an entire class or an entire certificate if they're just not there yet. But yes, I think I would see this as like also our center and my personal, would invite you to, that's what a strategic leader would do, is to find problems, Jared, and not only sit and say, okay, they asked me to do this thing as the leader of the student org, but to say, hey, I'm going to push you because I'm not sure this is the right problem to solve. That would be great. Was there someone else that had a question? Or Ethan, did you want to hop back in? Oh, Isaac, thank you.
Yeah, I had one, or just, a few quick things. So I think it'll be really important for us to differentiate from the class. As the club, we're different. We have a different, we have a pretty similar, I guess, target audience, but a different level of commitment and involvement and things that we need to do. So I think that'll be important going forward. Just one thing as well. So I just recently,
Oh, I think I lost him. Did you all?
Starting this semester, and I know that, oh, sorry. It's my internet.
Okay. Just recently, and then I lost you for a little bit.
Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, so with this new organization that's coming to campus, we had to put in a lot of work to actually get it set up, and with you guys already here as advisors and wanting to get this going, it makes it that much easier, way, way easier, which is really cool, really. Oh.
Yeah, we lost you again.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My internet
No, you're good.
Is not great at all. I just know that we have a lot of paperwork and things like that to fill out, and a constitution to write and things like that, and it's already halfway through October, and if we're going to be gunning for November organization, then it's a short timeline, essentially, is just what I'm saying. So it's important that we get it going, right?
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agree. Though I do think that between having those other resources and,
right,
Aaron and I have actually spoken with the folks in student affairs already in our own student engagement and assessment folks here at Eccles to make sure, so they all know it's coming. So yes, we have to do the things, but I think we've worked out at least some of the major questions that need to be asked about, type of club and what's the level and blah, blah, blah. So hopefully we'll go ahead of the game.
Easing the process, good. And just one other thing, I know there's a lot of research done through the business school. That's kind of a side that we don't really ever connect with, and that would be interesting as students to be able to take a deeper look into,
Yeah, awesome. I love that idea. I think we've got a lot of great faculty that would be interested. I was actually just talking to our, I'm on our faculty governance committee about how we can do that better, because in the business school we don't tend to do a great job at it, and frankly I think we have the lowest completion rate of honors students because we don't make it very simple for honors students to do research and complete. So I've actually had some conversations with the honors college about other options. So it may be that we could even connect into where honors students could get their honors credit by doing something via the club, like a consulting project, and then they would have to the big thing from the honors college is they want you to write. So that's their, they want you to write something big. So if you were to, for example, be able to write a big report about a project that you did, that might be something, at least on the Honors College, they've already verbally told me yes, that they're good with that. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can integrate into things that have already happened. And I don't, I didn't really give much at all of my background, but in addition to being the managing director of the center, I've been on the dean's team for nearly 8 years. So I know a whole lot about how this school works and have sort of full straight line of sight to the dean and many of the folks. So I think that, where we need to make those connections, we'll have the ability to do that, which I would recognize would be nearly impossible for any just a student org to do without that level of network.
I think that's really cool. I think that'd be a great opportunity. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Isaac. Good questions. Good questions, everyone.
I had a quick question about the format.
Yeah.
So between now and then the November start date, are we just going to want to like reach out to each other and try and collaborate? Or are you going to have like a weekly Zoom thing for us to like talk about ideas, or just see how it goes?
Yeah, good question, Daniel. I think, we're going to reach out basically and try to meet with you individually to understand your ideas, and then kind of decide based on who, says that they're interested in what we hear from them, on who we think that at least the initial leadership should be. And then we'll work with those leaders to get everything going and let them start to cultivate a relationship with you all to continue to reach out.
And I'm going to jump in here. Side note on that as well. Once we have student leaders decided, just so you all know, all of you are on this call, but there's still a handful of people, just as many of you, who also expressed an interest in being student leaders in the club. And then also there was a whole handful of people that didn't want to be a student leader but wanted to be involved in the club. So we already have a group of about 40 students that are just interested in being involved in this in general. So I think moving forward, once we get all the paperwork and all those kind of nitty-gritty things out of the way, then we can move forward with an initial network of people who have already expressed interest in the club as well.
Hey, I just have one last question. Aaron, this is in regards to a comment you said earlier with other schools that have a similar club to the Goff Strategic, what we're trying to build here. Is there anything we can do in the meantime, like any school specifically that you really liked what they're doing, that maybe we can find some things we want to try to implement here?
Yeah, totally. There's one called the Sanger Leadership Center at University of Michigan, which is really good. You can find them on Instagram. They're pretty active there, and then their website's good. And then the other one is the Doer Institute at Rice. Would you say those are the two?
Yeah, and
are there any other ones you would tell them to go to, Ruchi? There was a lot.
Yeah, there were a lot. And that even could be something that the leaders could do eventually, or we could, work to do, as if we wanted to do a deeper dive. I'm also a big fan, and folks in the class may know this, of like, yes, do your research, like get on the phone. Like, I would love it if we got student leaders from different leadership, clubs from across the country together. We can host a symposium. Sky's the limit. Let's think big about what would be valuable. I think that kind of thing would be kind of cool if we became the place that people came and even the student leaders come. Then we could at least do that on our campus and host things for student leaders across the campus. But how cool would that be to connect with some folks at a bunch of other schools?
Yeah, that sounds like an awesome opportunity. Thanks for answering that, Aaron and Ruchi.
You're welcome.
Such great questions, you all. Happy to stay on for a bit longer. Any other final questions? Or obviously you've got Aaron's contact info, and some of you have my contact info, so feel free to reach out.
Yeah, I had one last question too. When we say that we want it to start, I think I saw November 2nd or just sometime in November. Do we mean start as in host a first, say an opening social or something like that? Or is that going to be just announcing the presence of the club?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. If let's say the student leaders feel very strongly we should announce and have an event, that doesn't scare me, because I think that there are so many. If we wanted to pull a speaker, if we wanted to pull Taylor, if we wanted to pull a workshop on self-awareness, I feel like I could do that next week if we wanted to. well, maybe not Taylor because he's really busy, but so if we wanted to do both, I think we could, but I think we just definitely need to get some of the paperworky things going. And obviously the ideas will go into the Constitution, which goes into the paperwork. So it is a little bit hand in hand, Darren, but this isn't about like some quota on events. Like, it is truly about making an impact and value creation. I know that we say that all the time, but that is what it's really about. So if we need to start slow to go big, we'll start slow to go big, and we'll really kick off in spring or whatever. It's just that the November is like when they do the paperwork and when you can like go to their like online webinar sessions and all the stuff you have to do with ASUU. So if the student leaders felt like it doesn't make sense for us to host an event until spring and then really hit it hard, totally fine.
Okay, yeah, no, that sounds good. My brain just kind of like starts thinking about the logistics, but it's kind of like premature to when it's, okay.
Yeah, and the bonus is like, with virtual things, it's like we don't have food and space and all that stuff to necessarily think about now. Though even when we will and do, we have a space and we have technology and, by the bonus of being in the business school, we have child hall. Like, we have a lot of things that we can utilize. And, honestly, like, just to put out there, like, Erin is amazing in all ways, in many, many ways. And so she just gets the things done. So I've worked with a lot of student orgs who struggle because it's like every decision is a pain. Everything that you want to do, you want to do it, but you don't know how to do it. I think that's just the bonus of being in an org that is connected to a center. Other questions, thoughts? I'm glad you're getting excited and thinking about it. And that's exactly the kind of stuff, if you're interested, just respond to Erin's email. And that's the kind of stuff we'd love to hear is, how do you think this should work? And what are your ideas? So we'll look forward to hearing from you. Erin, any last follow-ups?
Just last thing, so we did record this meeting. I will upload it to YouTube, and then I'll send out a link just in case you guys want to rewatch it, but then we'll also send it to anyone who wasn't able to attend. And then we'll just reach out to you in the next week or so to schedule a time one-on-one to just talk to you about your own individual ideas, any other questions that you have after the meeting today. So I think that's it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, everybody. Please reach out with any other questions and have a good weekend. See ya.
Thank you guys.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you.